My name is Erin. I live in Nanaimo, BC, Canada, and I'm a mother of two. In 2022, when I was pregnant with our first child, I had a textbook pregnancy with heavy nausea and vomiting in the first trimester, and then incredible energy through the second and third trimesters, and was able to enjoy every moment of my pregnancy. Took my little baby hiking and exploring and all of the things that I had anticipated doing during my pregnancy. At around 35 weeks, in the evening I started to notice itching on the palms of my hands and feet. It was fairly mild, but it was isolated to those areas. Within a few days it went away, and I almost didn't mention it to my midwife, but my husband suggested I bring it up as it was an odd symptom. My midwife recognized the signs and symptoms of ICP, Intrahepatic Cholestasis of Pregnancy, and suggested requisitioned blood work for me to get it checked out. The symptoms had gone away, but the blood work came back several days later, showing that I had mild ICP with my bile acids at a level of 11. I was brought into the hospital to have an NST done and was referred to an OB, and we had elected to induce at 38 or 39 weeks. The next week I had an NST again to monitor baby, and then at 37 and 4 I had a routine midwife appointment, and at that point my husband and I had asked if we could just induce. There was no point for us to keep waiting. If there was any risk to our baby, we wanted her out safely. At that point, my midwife scoffed at our concerns and prepared to do a cervical sweep to start getting my body ready to induce at 38 or 39 weeks. When she went to put the Doppler on my stomach, they couldn't find my daughter's heartbeat. We were sent to the hospital. I was in complete shock and denial of what had happened. We had many people come and attempt to find a heartbeat, brought out an ultrasound, and eventually it was another OB who came in and broke the news to us that there was no heartbeat. We delivered our daughter Briar later that day. My body spontaneously went into labor. We had planned to induce labor the next day, and she was beautiful. She was 8 pounds 3 ounces, full head of auburn hair, and the most beautiful, squishy cheeks you can imagine. After her birth, everything looked normal. Her gross anatomy was perfect. We only got a short amount of time with her because they had to keep moving her back and forth to the morgue to preserve her body for an autopsy. Because at that point, we had no idea what had happened. The cholestasis, we had been reassured the levels were so low, it couldn't have caused any increased risk to our baby. And the day after we delivered her, another set of blood work showed that my bile acids had jumped to 90, and an autopsy would later confirm that her death was a cardiac event as a result of the bile acids in my body. After her death, I turned to all sorts of online resources to try to better understand this disease. One of the ones that I found was ICP Care, so Intrahepatic Cholestasis of Pregnancy Care, 501c3 nonprofit, and the Facebook support pages that they have for parents experiencing it. And I also found a support page specifically devoted to those who have lost children due to ICP. The care providers that we had, first off, had never dealt with stillbirth before. All 3 of our midwives had never supported a family through something like this. And our OB really had no insight to ICP. So it was on us to become better educated about it so that we could prepare ourselves for what our future looked like. We desperately wanted a baby in our arms and wanted to figure out how to do it safely because I wasn't certain that I could survive losing another child. Based on the Facebook groups, anecdotal evidence, papers that were suggested, my husband and I developed a plan for us to deliver a living child. We read that the statistics on ICP recurrence were fairly high. I believe it's 60 to 90% chance of recurrence if you've had it once, and there's really no treatment, cure, or prevention of it. Again, anecdotal evidence of diet and lifestyle changing your possibilities, but no hard data. So with that, we armed ourselves and found a care provider team that would support us in doing monthly monitoring from the date of conception to viability, so 22 or 23 weeks, then bi-weekly blood work up until 30 weeks, and then weekly blood work with the plan to induce once ICP showed up, because I assumed that it would happen. It wasn't reassuring to me to wait for symptoms to appear because my symptoms with Briar had been so mild. And that's something that I found repeatedly online, was that the severity of symptoms and the blood work, the blood chemistry did not always match. So I really wanted that solid data with the blood work to show trends in my system so that we could catch ICP before it shook another daughter. In our first pregnancy, I was not prescribed ursodiol. In Canada, they only prescribe it to help with symptoms rather than regulating bile acids. And because my symptoms had gone away, they saw no need to prescribe it. So with our second daughter, we did the monitoring. We did regular ultrasounds. We ended up doing NSTs as we got closer and closer to our third trimester. At 33.5 weeks, my liver enzymes started to elevate, so we had booked an induction on the Friday of that week. We got the steroids on board because she was so little. We met with a perinatal or a NICU team to find out what it would be like delivering a premature baby, and we did another blood draw. This time my samples were being airlifted directly to the lab so that there weren't delays in the courier getting the samples to the lab and getting the results reported back to us. So when that sample was sent over, it showed that my bile acids were still normal, so we delayed the induction. The next week we took another blood sample, and this time my bile acids had jumped up. So we induced labor at 34-1, delivered a beautiful, healthy 6-pound little girl, and lived in the NICU for 4 weeks. Losing my daughter Briar was the worst thing that has ever happened in my life. And becoming pregnant with her little sister was the scariest thing I've ever done. Choosing to take that risk again and potentially lose everything was terrifying. And I'm so grateful that she's here safe and that I can see her grow and imagine what her big sister would look like and how they'd interact. I'm so grateful for finding the resources that the Intrahepatic Cholestasis of Pregnancy Care 501c3 nonprofit has on their website and on their Facebook page, and the community of other parents who've experienced this condition and have experienced loss due to this condition. I don't think I could have done it without this organization. We had planned to get pregnant when the hope outweighed the fear, and then recognized that I don't think that would ever happen, so we chose to do it afraid anyways. Thank you for listening to my story and for hearing about my 2 little girls.